Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So, oh goodness, I feel like I've said this more and more often throughout the years, and this year, 2024, is no different. So, Wizards, what are you doing? It's just, every single time you turn a corner, there's a spoiler, not just for like an upcoming set, but for one that's way in the future, and then there's also miscellaneous leaks that happen every now and then, and it's like, did Wizards do those too? I don't know, but what they have done is spoil some more cards. Last week, it is getting to the point where, even though I do this full time, even I can't keep up with everything, so I apologize to all of you who've already seen these before, but if you're like me and you missed these in the cavalcade of all the other information coming out, yeah, with all that said, let's jump into the spoilers. So first up, we've got an absolutely adorable Otter that isn't banned. Sorry, Lutri fans out there, from Bloomburrow. Yeah, this set has me really excited. Kind of like, oh gosh, I can't remember his mouse guard. And then also, obviously, Redwall is another kind of inspiration that I absolutely loves. But anyways, a 3/3 Otter Rogue for 4 mana, and is it Prowess? So again, Prowess is whenever you're casting a non-creature spell, it gets ++1 until end of turn. Also says other creatures you control have prowess, so that is huge. And of course, on top of that, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature control can't be blocked this turn. So kind of like a monastery mentor, I guess, in a way with that prowess. I think monastery mentors potentially, I mean, it can mix the monks that have prowess. But basically, giving all your other creatures prowess, that can be absolutely massive, because again, if you're casting spell after spell after spell, you can essentially pump your entire team quite a bit, and your opponents can have a really hard time not only blocking, but actually swinging into if you've got mana open, especially in Izzet, where, yeah, you can spell sling left and right very, very quickly, especially with, you know, maybe some cost reduction. But on top of that, again, being able to make it so that your creatures can't be blocked this turn, oh my goodness, the potential for that is huge. Yeah, I mean, just with this commander itself, if you are able to cast a couple of spells, maybe give it double strike. I mean, obviously there's ways to do it, like, there's that one enchantment that's from Tarkir that costs 5, and it's like attack creature control of double strike, whatever that one is. Rage Reflection's another one. Blood Mist just for the first one. Or, yeah, just some very simple spells that give double strike too. That can be some ways to go about this. But yeah, like a spell slinging, I mean, maybe go wide strategy, maybe some token generation. You've got some good token generation in these colors. Or, I mean, if you want to go like Infect, I'm sure you could do that as well, because again, even like a very small like Blighted Agent, you know, which already is unblockable, you don't even need an unblockable one, right? You could have an even lower to the ground one. But basically, you know, Infect creatures that you can pump up when you are swinging through, making them unblockable. That is massive. And keep in mind, it does say target creature you control can't be blocked this turn, so you can't really politic with that like on your opponent's turns. Be like, hey, I'll cast a spell and make that unblockable. Keep that in mind, it's just for your own. But again, yeah, being able to get through with, you know, infect creatures, double striking creatures, creatures hitting incredibly hard, you could take opponents out with this commander, essentially kind of like a one-punch man commander, but in Izzet. But yes, a very, very interesting one at that, and an adorable one. And as some players out there have pointed out on Reddit so far, some Magic players have pointed out, hey, looks kind of like that one character from JoJo. Anyways, moving on. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, a star elemental bear with vigilance and reach for 6 mana in green. Elemental bear. So yeah, another bear commander, right? Maybe, we'll see. When its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, so kind of like a, like Multani type effect, essentially. When it enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That is a pretty huge ETB. I can definitely see this just like in landfall decks, the 99 of those decks, but also, yeah, self-mill decks too. I mean, milling 4, not that big of a deal, but when you already have a lot of other cards milled in this ETB, so it's like, oh, by the way, get all your lands back. Yes, they come to play tap, so it's not gonna be like a massive like ritual effect. You're like, okay, cool, I get to utilize them right away. I mean, I guess if you have like Amulet of Vigor, then cool, you can do it all right away too. That being said, this as a commander, I mean, can be quite spicy, utilizing a lot of ways to get lands into play, sacrifice lands, you know, things like Harrow, or just like an Evolving Wilds fetch lands to get lands into your graveyard. Again, self-mill type effects to just fill your graveyard, like a Keening Stone, like doubling up your graveyard size again and again and again, and then just throwing this in play and having an absurd amount of lands come to play at once. I mean, I can very easily see you getting 20 plus lands out quite quickly with a commander like this. Of course, you can work into landfall synergies too. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do this one. I guess I should have mentioned as well. I like the little leaf logo right there for the set icon. This is Bloomburrow as well, obviously with it being a monstrous bear thingy. But regardless, it is a pretty cool one. Again, Vigilance Reach allows you to be aggressive, to be able to keep swinging basically every single turn. You're probably going to be able to swing pretty safely with something like this being as massive as it's going to be. And obviously with blocking as well, being able to stay back for, blocks as well, Vigilance. So you can do some pretty cool things with this one. Next up, Mabel Heir to Cragflame, a 3/3 Mouse Soldier for 3 mana in Boros. Other mice you control get +1/+1. Actually, here's a question. Have we had mice specifically? We've had rats. I'm sure we've had mice before, right? We have had mice. There was that one carriage card as well. But, now apparently we get mice tribal with this. So apparently we're going to be getting a lot of mice in Bloomburrow, which is not all that surprising, I guess. When it enters, create Cragflame, a legendary colorless equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +1/+1, has Vigilance, Trample, and Haste equipped too. So basically, making your own equipment to attach to this or something else, I guess. It doesn't just auto-equip, but equip 2 is not that much. And all of those, well, all those keywords can be quite good with something like this, especially if you're going kind of like a Voltron type strategy. Again, Vigilance, Trample, Haste. +1/+1 is, not too much, but starting kind of off with, hey, I've got my commander. Maybe I've got some other equipment that can work really well, some ways to play around with equipment, ways to attach them for free, etc., etc., etc. And yes, ways to essentially make this into a force to be reckoned with. Or, you can go wide with Mice Tribal as well. Maybe Mice / equipment Tribal. No, we'll see what happens in this set. Moving on. Also from Bloomburrow, we've got Burki Bary? No idea. Long Ear of the Law, a 4/4 Rabbit Soldier with Vigilance for 6 mana in Selesnya. When it enters, put a counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Whenever a creature controls a counter on it attacks, double the number of counters on it. So, what's that card? Colonian Hydra? Something like that? Colonial? Something like that. There's a Hydra, essentially, that when it attacks, you're doubling up the counters on everything you have that has counters on it, essentially. So, yeah, that is a pretty brutal effect. Yes, 6 mana is a decent amount for a commander, kind of the higher end. But that is a massive effect, and keep in mind, it doesn't say, when this attacks, you get that effect. No, it's whenever a creature you control, they counter on it attacks. So, it is not dependent on this just getting out and swinging right away. No, you just need to get this out, swing with the other creatures that have counters on them, and all of a sudden you double up those counters. That is massive. That is huge. Yeah, you've got plenty of ways to use and abuse those counters, ways to take advantage of creatures that have counters on them. Of course, not just because of power, but maybe there's ways to move around counters, ways to, Forgotten Ancient, essentially move them around as well, or, things that care about their own power, like a Champion of Lambholt, essentially, where it's oh, okay, cool, I doubled up my counters. I'm massive now. All the other creatures can't block. So yeah, you can do some really crazy things with that. I can see this one hitting very, very hard. Players out there love counters. It's one of the top 5 themes right now according to EDH Rec. And yeah, I can see this one hitting hard, not just, of course, as a commander, but in the 99 of those decks as well. Kind of like another, I think it's again Colonial Hydra, whatever it is. Something similar to that. But yeah, another way to double up your counters is always going to be welcome with that. And of course, again, with the ETB, being able to start things off with counters onto creatures, that can be nice as well, including with this one, of course. So I guess that's kind of how they got to the 4/4, because ETB, you put it on this potentially as one of them. Attack, double, go to 6. So 6 power for 6 mana. That's probably where they went with that one. Moving on, though, let's move on to Modern Horizons 3. We've got Ajani, Nectal Pariah, a 1/2 cat warrior for 2 mana in mono white. But we'll see. Enters the battlefield, create a 2/1 white cat warrior creature token. Whenever one or more other cats you control die, you may exile Ajani. They return to the battlefield, transformed under owner's control. So this luckily just gives you that cat. Essentially, you don't have to go cat tribal. You definitely can, and we'll see on the back if that's a good idea or not. You could just, get the cat warrior out, have a sacrifice outlet in play, sacrifice that, and all of a sudden, yeah, you flip your Ajani. Again, very, very early. You can flip it as early as turn 2. Maybe if you have got a sacrifice outlet, or a way to freely sacrifice a creature, or if you like Soul Ring turn 1. You got ways that you can sacrifice that cat to actually flip it on turn 2. It flips over into Ajani, Nectal Avenger, a 3 starting loyalty Planeswalker. This is in the Boros color identity, so technically a Boros commander then, although it does appear to be a mono white in the front. No, it is Boros. +2, put a counter on each cat you control. 0, create a 2/1 cat warrior creature token. When you do, if you control a red permanent other than Ajani, He deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to any target. -4. Each punch is an artifact, a creature, enchantment, planeswalker from one of the non-land permanents they control, then sacrifices the rest. So, yeah, there's some potential there. Obviously, with the first one, the +2, being able to go, if you want to go cat tribal, great. Go wide, get a lot of cats out, get counters on them. The 0, being able to get more cats into play, and also be a form of removal. If you have another red permanent, I do kind of like that little addition right there. But you need another red permanent in play. Not all that hard to do. I mean, obviously, if you are utilizing, sacrifice out, you could just get a Goblin Bombardment out early, something like that. You could just get to the races with that very quickly. But also, that -4 can be pretty devastating, and some of your opponents do have to play around with a little bit. Each punch is an artifact, creature, enchantment, planeswalker from the non-land permanents they control, and sacrifice the rest. I mean, I guess the only thing that really gets around that, essentially, artifact, creature, enchantment, planeswalker. Battles get around it, I guess, for some reason. But I guess, you can't really mention battles in every single thing. That being said, yeah, that is a pretty good semi-repeatable board wipe in a way that is one-sided. They do get to pick, so again, they get to choose which ones they're keeping. It's not, oh gosh, what's that 5 mana mono white card? It is escaping me right now. Tragic Arrogance. There we go. I think that's it, right? Where basically you get to pick for them. No, they get to keep their best things in play. That being said, it's still a very, very formidable effect. So yeah, I can see this commander being kind of a control-y kind of commander, or again, going cat tribal, or a combination of both. Also keep in mind that, again, deal damage equal to the number of creatures controlled to any target. That could be a player's face. That could be, I mean, if you got like a Brash Taunter in play, I guess that's the same thing. But if you got damage dealing effects, you can work with that. So yeah, there are definitely ways that you can play around with this one. That's pretty exciting. Moving on. Also, Modern Horizons was revealed as It That Heralds the End. Weird name. Anyways, a 2/2 Eldrazi drone for 1 and a colorless. Colorless spells you cast with mana value 7 or greater cost 1, less to cast. Other colorless creature you control ++1. This obviously would be good for, well, Eldrazi Tribal, because, hey, a lot of your giant Eldrazi are definitely 7 or more mana, and they are colorless spells. And, yeah, a nice pump effect for that, too. That being said, of course, there are other commanders out there that deal with massive spells in colorless, so if you are considering those, consider this. It is a good low-to-the-ground creature that is a nice anthem for you as well, like a nice Lord effect that does reduce the cost as well, so that can really help you out. Moving on, Psychic Frog. What a weird-looking card. Very cool, though. A 1/2 frog for Dimir colors. When it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card, so low to the ground, being able to get that kind of card advantage, that is pretty huge. Discard a card, get a counter on it. Reminds me of Psychotog. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Psychic Frog gains flying till turn. Yeah, definitely inspired from Psychotog, in my opinion. Definitely different than Psychotog in that this is discarding cards to get counters on it, but utilizing the graveyard to give it flying instead, which I guess works with, getting through on an opponent to draw cards, versus I think Psychotog was what, like, remove 2 cards out of your graveyard to get a counter on it as well, so just a way to make it absolutely massive. Worked really well with Upheaval back in the day. That being said, yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting card. It is a low-to-the-ground card that can get through, and that can draw you some cards. There you go. Moving on. Flare of Cultivation, 3 mana in green. Sorcery, you may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Search live for 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put 1 on the battlefield, tap the other in your hand, then shuffle. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I need to actually just admit something real quick. There's some of these when I was putting this episode together, I scanned through, and other ones I didn't fully read, essentially, because I was just throwing together and like, oh wait, that card came out, that card came out, that card came out, and I didn't read this one. That's really good. So again, non-token green creature, you're sacrificing essentially instead of paying this to actually, again, 2 basic land cards. 1 goes on the battlefield, tap that in your hand, then shuffle. This is basically just better Cultivate? Basically, right? Am I wrong on that? 2 basic land cards, you reveal those, 1 goes to the battlefield, tap, the other goes in your hand. It's the exact same thing as Cultivate with that. Yeah, I mean, technically harder to cast, being 1 green versus 2 in a green. That being said, not all that difficult at all to cast. And of course, you do have the option to just sacrifice a non-token green creature to just get this for free. So yeah, that's pretty huge. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than this is just a better Cultivate in some ways, which is just crazy to see. Unless I'm missing something, which I don't think I am right now. Maybe I am. But again, obviously, it does make a slight impact. Like if you say you have a 5-color deck and you're like trying to get this out early, and it does have that extra green pip, that does make a difference. That being said, there are definitely ways to cast it. And yeah, just on its face, lower the ground to 1, 2-color, 3-color decks. Better than Cultivate. Wow. Moving on, Cur of Gremlins. We have an enchantment for 4 mana in Boros. When enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 gremlin creature tokens. Then you get an amount of energy equal to the number of creatures you control. Energy coming back? Yes, please. Pay 4 energy. Creatures control get +1/+0, gain haste until end of turn. Okay, so this is pretty spicy. So this is, I mean, if you have an energy deck already, congratulations. It's very difficult to build an energy deck because there's not too much energy support out there right now. That being said, looks like we're going to be getting some more. An enchantment that gives you some gremlins. That's very nice. But also, more importantly, being able to, I mean, again, based on the number of creatures you control, so that could be at the very least 2, but hopefully you get up to the very least 4, so you can activate this once. That being said, if you're not in an energy deck, you're probably going to be using this because you might not even get to that 4, and then you can't even give your creatures haste all turns. So there you go. An interesting card, though. Let's move on to Outlaws at Thunder Junction, though. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, I believe. A 1/1 Skeleton Rogue with Death Touch that costs a single black mana. That's right, Tiny Bones is back, the pickpocket. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and end mana of any type can be set to cast that spell. I feel like they reworded that. It's a little cleaner now. Regardless, interesting. A very low to the ground commander. Typically, again, we don't see commanders that are this low to the ground, just a single mana. So yeah, and commander, you're like, get this out turn 1. Now, it might not be doing all that much for you turn 1 because you get out and you're like, okay, cool. Next turn, I attack you. Ha ha ha! You've got nothing in your graveyard. Okay, I don't get anything out of that. Darn. Yeah, so basically a commander that incentivizes you to mill your opponents, maybe even force them to discard things, maybe search their library for things, get them into their graveyard, and of course, yeah, taking advantage of that combat damage trigger. Death Touch is not a guarantee that you're getting through, but there are ways to definitely help that out. I mean, by giving it maybe first strike, so like essentially anything that blocks it, it's just going to take out. I mean, if they double block it, it won't, but if you give it, you know, more than 1 power, that can help even more on more than 1 creature. Double strike is even better, though, with this kind of a commander because obviously that's a combat damage trigger to a player. So again, it hits the player, hits them again, you get 2 stacks of that, and now all of a sudden you're able to utilize your mana to actually steal their things out of their graveyard. With this, too, again, because it does let you spend mana of any type to cast the spells, you actually can just really focus on just ramping as efficiently, effectively as possible, like, you know, 3 and turbine, that kind of thing. 3 and turbine, is that right? Yeah. Also like Worn Power Stone, things like that, essentially, where you are able to, again, just dump a ton of colorless mana into spending that on very expensive, you know, permanents from your opponent's graveyards, non-land permanent card from their graveyards, being able to steal some big things. It's a very exciting commander, one that is a bit more, I'd say a little more friendly than other Tiny Bones, which is ironic because, again, you are kind of like stealing your opponent's things. You are having to pay for them, though. That being said, other Tiny Bones like, hey, discard, 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 and some players maybe don't like that nearly as much. Another cute tiny commander that has come out is Fibbleflip, Lost on the Range. Fibbleflip is back at it, a 1/1 homunculus with Ward 2, because they throw Ward and everything, for 1 blue. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. The top card of your library has Plot. The Plot cost equal to its mana cost. You may plot non-land cards to the top of your library. I have no idea what Plot means. I probably should have looked into that before this, but again, I'm just flustered at this point with the amount of things that are coming out, so there you go. Regardless, looking at top card of your library anytime is nice. I can at the very least tell you that it is very nice to be able to maybe manipulate the top card of your library with cards like Ghoulcaller's Bell, Pixis Pandemonium, any kind of card that can either mill or exile the top card of your library so that you can actually get to cards that you can utilize, so that's nice. And the top card of your library has Plot. Plot cost equal to its mana cost. No idea what that does. So again, I guess we will learn more. Maybe we already know what Plot does. If you do, please let me know in the comments below. I'm excited to hear about it. And if not, I guess we need to find out in the future what Plot does. Moving on. Oko is back. Oh goodness. Okay, so hopefully they didn't build as broken of an Oko as they did last time. I don't think they did, but we shall see. 3 starting loyalty, Oko, 4 mana in Simic. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko the Ringleader becomes a copy up to 1 target creature control until end of turn, except that it has hexproof. That was very smart that they gave it hexproof because, yeah, that would just kind of get Oko removed more often than not, I would think. If they were just like, okay, it's a creature, cool. All right, yay. Oh, you just Doombladed my Oko. Okay, that's unfortunate. +1, draw 2 cards. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card. Otherwise, discard 2 cards. No idea what a crime is. Does anyone know in the comments below? Please let me know. My guess is like if you've damaged someone or made someone lose life, maybe? Negatively impacted someone. We shall see. Regardless, a +1 to draw 2, discard 1, or to straight up draw 2. That seems very powerful. -1, of course, create a 3/3 green elk creature token because Oko, and the elk, of course, just bring it to Thunder Junction as well. -5 for each other non-land permanent you control. Create tokens, copy that permanent. Gross. So yeah, that's actually a pretty big ultimate. Only again -5, so that's 2 ticks up, or very easy to proliferate that up, or of course like a doubling season ETB ultimate right away. Yeah, That can be pretty massive. So, I mean, Super Friends decks out there might want to utilize this one, though obviously that ultimate might not help all that much when it comes to actually utilizing it on the Super Friends themselves because they are legendary. That being said, yeah, there's definitely places for this kind of a commander. And again, that is some absurd potential card draw right there, depending on what exactly committing a crime is. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Duels to the Mind, also at Outlaws Thunder Junction. Star 3, Human Advisor, Flying Vigilance for 2 mana in blue. Power is equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. That can be pretty massive. Whenever you commit a crime, again, don't know exactly what crime is. Let's assume it's damage. Whenever you may draw a card if you discard a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So being able to potentially loot consistently throughout the game with this, again, depending on what committing a crime is, that can be very good. Also, this can just be a really heavy hitter. Again, Star, Flying, Vigilance, based on what card you draw on this turn. So yeah, just on your turn, this is obviously going to be hit for at least 1. If you got any other ways to draw more and more cards, great, do so. But yeah, if you wheel, that's like 7, just power right there on a 2-mana creature. Or like a Blue Sun Zenith type thing as well. Your opponents can't even like swing into you effectively if you've got a lot of mana open. Again, you are in blue. So yeah, like Blue Sun Zenith, those kind of cards, stroke of genius. Being able to just draw a lot of cards at once out of nowhere. Very effective blocker as well. I mean, I guess only 3 toughness, but still. Yeah, a really heavy hitter. Moving on. Hell to Pay. Sorcery for X in a red. It deals X damage to our creature, create a number of tap treasure tokens equal to the number of excess damage to that creature's way. Okay, Wizards are starting to learn their problem, their mistake a little bit, but learn from their mistake a little bit. Those treasures do come to play tap, but still gross. So basically, just hey, make X treasure tokens is essentially what this is. I mean, yeah, are there going to be scenarios where you're like, oh, okay, that creature's a big threat at 5 power, or sorry, 5 toughness, and be like, okay, I'll cast this, take that out. Oh, and I get 2 extra treasures because I put 7 mana in that X. Good for me. But are there going to be other times where you're like, oh, okay, they've got a 1/1 in play. Cool. I'm just going to dump all my mana into this and then make 10 treasure tokens, and it's just a giant ritual effect. Yeah, you got to wait to utilize those treasures, but still, just having 10 extra treasures is huge. It just bursts you forward in front of your opponents. And yeah, I mean, there's even times when you just, again, it doesn't say target creature opponent controls, so you can just target your own creature. And if you've got a little 1/1 to play and you're like, would I rather have this 1/1 servo, or would I rather have 10 treasures? Yeah, let's just ramp myself into oblivion for next turn. So yeah, Wizards, hold up on treasures. Please just stop making them for now. Okay, please. Now, moving on, the big score. No idea what set this is for. Someone in the comments below, let me know. Okay, big score. Maybe it's like attached to Thunder Junction somehow. Like it's like an outlaw-y set, kind of train robbery kind of thing. I don't know. Equipment for 3. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection for instant sorceries. Okay, so we've got some more to the sword cycle apparently, but maybe a new sword cycle starting, essentially. And instead of being protection from 2 colors, there were 10 of those. Now it's protection from instants and sorceries, so 2 different things. Whenever equipped creature rolls combination to a player, create a treasure token. Wizards, stop with the treasures. When you next cast an instant sorcery spell, copy that spell, choose targets for the copy, equip 2. Yeah, it's really good. Being able to, well, make a treasure. That's nice. Little, again, temporary ramp with that, essentially. Yeah, there's no sword that actually gets you a land, but still very good. Also, there's different things you can do as treasures, ways to benefit from sacrificing them, etc. That being said, doubling up your next in sorcery can be, of course, even bigger than that. That is pretty huge, being able to say, oh yeah, I'm going to cast this massive spell next. Oh, and I just get to get it for free because I got this creature through. Protection from instant sorceries, that's not going to help get the creature through itself, like, the old swords did, essentially, being like, hey, that creature's blue. I have protection from blue. I can get through. This won't do that because your opponents aren't blocking with instant sorceries, obviously. That being said, yeah, being protected from a lot of removal, that is pretty huge. It's going to be hard to deal with this creature that it's attached to, and again, a lot of value to be had with something like this. Next up, Nexus of Becoming. I think it's the last one I'm talking about in this episode. Artifact for 6. Beginning of combat on your turn, draw a card. Then you may exile an artifact creature card from your hand. If you do create tokens, copy the exile card, except it's a 3/3 gold artifact creature to other types. I mean, this is definitely a good way to use and abuse massive creatures and massive artifacts. Again, combat on your turn, draw a card, so that's just nice. I mean, again, additional card advantage right there. I mean, just this like Staff of Nin kind of in a way like that, but instead of just tapping and pinging for 1, it's like, no, kind of like cheat things out of your hand. So you are kind of like getting card disadvantage in a way if you choose to exile that card from your hand, but you're also just getting it into play for free in a way, except it's just a 3/3, so it's like, obviously, if you're like, okay, I get rid of my Blightsteel Colossus. Okay, cool. You've got like a 3/3 trampling, infect, indestructible, which is nowhere near as good as a level 11. That being said, for ones that are like Mirror Battlesphere and they have like a good ETB, you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I cheat this into play. Instead of paying 7 mana, I get a 3/3 with a great ETB. And of course, other giant artifacts can be had as well. There are going to be times where obviously, you know, you are making maybe potential like really powerful artifacts that aren't creatures into creatures, which makes them more susceptible to removal. That being said, there's a good amount of value to be had. Obviously, why it's a mythic, it's a pretty good card, pretty good effect. So now this episode is coming to a close. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these cards. Let me know what your favorite of these cards are. What set are you most excited about? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.